Good morning, Merry Marvelites. Yes, indeed, we are here talking Marvel. And for those of you watching the video on YouTube, you see that we're waving. Christian Bladt here, and I am joined by Rachel Radner.
Hey everyone, I'm really excited to be here and using my author name from now on, I think. So yeah, I'm just excited to be here and talking about Marvel and keeping this going.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, Michael Shirley, who realized that it was a black cat optional.
Yeah.
And
got my black cat
optional. Wait a minute. Yeah. So, yes, we're very excited to be talking Marvel here with everyone. And in case you're wondering, Zia Anderson will be joining us in a little bit. She's running a few minutes behind, but what else is new? Let's address the Hulk in the room, which is a comment. Yes, we can put comments on the screen. Daniel Drew, any particular reason it's here and not on the Popcorn Talks page, or will it shift somehow? In case you missed the notice, Popcorn Talk and AfterBuzz are on hiatus for the summer, but we love doing this show so much that we decided that we would still do it probably most weeks, maybe not every single week. We wanted to make sure we still showed up this Thursday so that everybody who expects the show knows that they're going to get it. We might tinker around with some different times so we can have some different people on. But we're doing it here for the summer, and then hopefully we're back over on Popcorn Talk. But out of respect of everybody over there, you'll notice this show is called Marvel Movie Talk. So clearly it's not the same show. It looks completely different than that show. I'm not in the same bunker underneath my house. I don't have the same comics behind me. So it's not the same people. So yeah, and what Rock and Daniel are talking about in the chat. Yes, Popcorn Talk is on hiatus. It's part of AfterBuzz. It's the same network. So we're excited for them to come back. And until then, there's too much Marvel to talk about. And one of the things that I want to talk about, I'm kind of waiting for Zia to be here. So I'm going to first talk about the announcement. This was actually last week. But if you saw last week's episode over on the Popcorn Talk page, we talked to Chris Claremont, legendary X-Men writer, for 80 minutes. And there was no time for news. And Rachel, I don't even know if you know this, but he actually stayed on and talked with Michael and I off air for half an hour.
Yeah, and you told me. And
let's just say that conversation would have gotten like 1 million views if we'd recorded it. But he was very honest. He's always honest, but just very honest and just letting us know what he thought about everything. So I always appreciate him taking the time. And if you haven't seen that one, it's still over there on the Popcorn Talk page. And so the news that we'll start with is kind of this idea, and I know that a lot of you probably saw this last week, that the Black Widow movie, the director of Black Widow, Kate Shorthand, you know what? Shortland. But speaking of short, look who's here. It's Zia Landerson, the Steel Day Trash. How are you?
Did you just say speaking of short? Hey, guys.
Yeah, about right. It's good that you're here, Zia, because Rock was about to leave in the chat. Rock 620, he would not have kept watching if you weren't here. He was actually holding his breath until you showed up.
I think that he was actually like, damn it, one show that I can watch that she's not on, for the love of God.
Hey, comment from Al Andy. Yes, so glad to see Michael Shirley talking Marvel again. Thanks for keeping it going, Christian. Michael Shirley, you have a fan. Right there in the chat. Yeah. And I love this comment from Daniel Drew. I'm keeping the numbering, though. This is still episode 283 to me. I don't know about that. You know what Marvel does? Marvel does what they call legacy numbering. You know, like Fantastic Four #1 came out like 2 years. A better example, Amazing Spider-Man #1, like Volume 7, #1, came out like 4 years ago. But when they hit to what was going to be number 850, magically it's going to be 850 again, and it'll say legacy numbering. So we'll do legacy numbering when we can get back on the Popcorn Talk. But in any case, what we were about to talk about was this story from, let's see, who gave me this? The Direct, that Kate Shortland, who is the director of Black Widow, a movie that we may or may not see in November, I'm not holding my breath, but we'll talk about that later. Says that this movie is very clearly going to be Natasha handing the baton of Black Widow over to Florence Pugh's character, Yelena Belova, and it's sort of a tricky timeline sort of thing that they're going to do it back in like 2016 when she dies, and like I don't know what that is supposed to be, 2024 or something. But what do you think generally? I'll ask you first, Rachel. This idea of we're going to have a different Black Widow, probably incorporated into the modern timeline, but introduced in this flashback backstory origin movie.
To me, it fits the phase of what they're doing with Marvel next, considering we are not only kind of passing the baton of Black Widow, but also Captain America. So right now, to me, this is a time of change. With Endgame, we kind of got the end of the, many of the originals of the Avengers, not, just kind of the next chapter. The first, that chapter had kind of been completed in a way. And now we're kind of on to something different. And so to me, I do like that we're getting a Black Widow origin story, but it does make sense that this would also be the movie where we show who's coming next. And what a better way than to have a movie where we can kind of get introduced to this other character instead of just being thrown someone in the next wave of the Avengers.
Right, and I wonder if they might bookend this movie in a way that has something that's kind of modern. Maybe it's Yelena finding out that Natasha's dead, or could it be like as Natasha's falling to her death, which she's kind of remembering this, which is a pretty rough thing that Michael sent to me, which was, you want to see Black Widow drop on Disney Plus? Go to 1 hour, 50 minutes, and 52 seconds. That's if you want to see Black Widow drop.
Wow, that's hilarious.
Very nice.
Very funny. It's a little brutal, but I love that. And leave it to Michael to have found that for me. Michael, what do you think about this idea that, that Florence Pugh would be basically a character who is Black Widow? It's not recasting the role of Natasha. And again, we haven't seen the movie, so it's a little hard, but just in theory, what do you think about that idea?
I have a lot of thoughts. I think one, the after credits will be her and the Avengers kind of like being like, you're the new Black Widow. Second, I agree with Rachel. It makes sense with what they're doing. I have this whole conspiracy theory that they're going to just kill off everyone and replace everyone. Like, I think that, I've been talking to you about this, Christian. I think that the Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel show is going to lead up to her taking over Captain Marvel. There's talk that there's a new Marvel actress that's going to be on the way out very quickly. I think taking Captain Marvel away really quickly would be really dramatic and be like a big push in a different direction, because I've always complained there's not really enough stakes in these movies. I feel like when people die, they come back to life, and like we finally had people die that they say, oh, they're gonna stay dead forever. But then, they're talking about, oh, well, maybe Robert Downey Jr. will come back as an AI Tony Stark. I'm hoping to see like Ironheart. That's what Robert Downey Jr. said he wants to see take the place of Iron Man. Got Natalie Portman being Thor. You'll have Yelena Belova, Florence Pugh. It sounds like everyone's kind of, and they're saying it's like a legacy thing, like, like very on theme with our numbers, our legacy numbers. But I think it's all very calculated. And I think we're just going to see pretty much everyone be replaced with new age
and to the point, like Iron Man in particular, we have War Machine, Rhodey's still alive. There are going to be other characters in Stark armor. I'm 100% sure of that. Do they work over to Ironheart and how they do that? Zia, what do you think about this idea of keeping the character of Black Widow alive instead of doing, the mentality only a few decades ago was always like, oh, we'll just recast with a new actor. But they seem to want to be, if we're going to have a Black Widow, let's have it be someone else from the Black Widow program.
I think that's a smart way to do it. I like that a lot better than the idea of just recasting with a different actor and being like, look, it's Natasha Romanoff the whole time, and you're like, no. Yeah, I hate when they do that, but it's going to be really interesting. I actually agree with you too, Michael. I think that they're going to start replacing and changing a lot. It's just, this is going to be an interesting one because we get one movie to basically get introduced to and I mean, obviously, unless you've read the comics, but just cinematic universe wise, you get one movie to get introduced to Yelena Belova and Florence Pugh and that whole idea of having her as Black Widow, as opposed to, say, Captain America leaving and having Falcon take over. That role is a little bit different because Falcon's already been in the MCU for a while. We know that character. You're like, okay, cool. This is happening. I get it. We're gonna have a show that's gonna lead into that whole thing. This is just gonna be a little bit weird. I'm not against it. I don't know how I feel about it yet until I see it, and until I see how it fits in. In
the chat, Rock mentions you bring in some fresh faces and characters. I agree with that too. I mean, I think there are recasting would be awful also from Rock. I think that the idea that there are so many Marvel characters you can do. But Zia, how upset would you be if they got rid of Carol Danvers and she was only in one more movie and we never saw her again?
Oh no. I know, as soon as Michael was saying that, I was like, oh, I don't hate that idea at all.
I think she's too powerful to keep around, honestly.
Oh.
Yeah.
Kind of like Superman.
Maybe if Rogue takes her powers, we can keep her around.
Yeah.
But
I would love that story. I think that
would kill her. They'd probably kill her.
Well, it's literally the way that Rogue was introduced in the comics in Avengers Annual number 10. She's this character who has already stolen then Ms. Marvel, Carol Danvers' powers. And, Rogue ends up keeping those powers. That usually isn't how her power works. Her power, that's why she's able to fly. Yeah, exactly. So it's so I think that would be a really cool way to do it. Let us know in the chat whether you're watching live or watching the archive version. If you're watching the archive version, we will always jump in and share our thoughts with you. I think that it'd be very cool, and to kind of see some of that. Look, they have so much planned. They just need to be able to get in front of the cameras, and all indications are that they're doing Falcon and Winter Soldier right now, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. But something that's coming up just next week is Comic-Con, but it's, of course, Comic-Con at home, which, when you think about it, isn't it kind of better? Because if you go for the panels, you can actually see them now. You don't have to wait in a line and maybe not get in and be in the back of the Hall H.
And actually, like you said, Christian, actually get in. I don't know about you guys, but it's the only way I ever got in was accidentally.
The only way I got into panels I wanted to was I went like 3 panels earlier to something I didn't care about, and I sat through it, and I kept moving up closer as it went along. So that's why I sat in the panel for Vampire Diaries in 2011.
Oh,
yeah, I thought that might get that got a laugh from the ladies, and Michael's just disgusted with me. Why would you do that to yourself? It was the news until less than an hour ago was that Marvel would have no presence at Marvel Studios, and that's actually still true technically. So Marvel Studios isn't doing a Comic-Con at-home event. We'll talk in a minute to just quickly go over what Marvel Comics, Marvel Entertainment is doing there. But what we found out now, there's going to be a New Mutants panel. And the New Mutants panel will have the director and some of the cast on July 23rd at 2 p.m. Pacific, which means it'll be after this show. So now I'm like, wait, I feel like we should do this show later and talk about the panel. Here's the thing. There's a trailer. And that was tweeted out by our friend Colpido on the Marvel News PTN Twitter account. And if you look at it, at the end, it tells you when this panel is going to be. You know what it doesn't tell you? When the movie's being released.
Yeah, I fucking know.
It says PG-13 and check out the stay-at-home panel. So we were talking 2 weeks ago about how this movie's not going to come out on the 28th. They shifted too many things around. I also don't know if movie theaters are going to be open on August 28th. But there's been all this talk about how it's not going to be released on demand because of all the contractual obligations from Fox. But maybe somebody took the time and had, a bunch of signatures. Zia, we've talked so much about New Mutants in the last 2 years.
Yes.
So that's why I'm going to you first. What do you think about this panel? What do you think it means about when we'll actually get to see it?
If they're smart, they'll just release it on demand, because at the rate the world is going, who knows if movie theaters will ever actually come back for real, like in a real way, not at 25% capacity.
I think regionally, you'll find places like we were having this conversation on Twitter with Dominicus Saxon, who's a fan of the Black Cast.
Mm-hmm.
He lives in Idaho, and he has movie theaters open, and I'm like, sure, that regionally non-chain movie theaters will definitely
not enough.
Open. Yeah.
That's not enough for movies to make the box office money they usually make. Sorry, no. Rachel, go on.
Yeah, and you can't just have the drive-in release.
Here's the thing. I follow, I don't know about you guys, I follow the movie sales, which they still tally them up at this point across the country.
That's so
Empire Strikes Back has been the number one movie as of late. So my thought process is, I think that if nothing else, the pandemic has changed the way we're going to view movies. And I agree with Zia completely. I think if they are smart, they will just release it on demand and allow people to view it at home. Even if movie theaters are open, are somehow regionally, if they open domestically by the end of September, let's just say, I don't know that we're going to have a lot of people going anyway because of everything going on. So I think the smart move would just be to release it online.
You'll make more money that way. I think if you do kind of like a King of Staten Island situation where you release it and the rent is $20. It's a rental for $20. Look, I like movie theaters. I've been saying that. I used to love going to see movies. I just it's too much has changed. Cases are still spiking. It's just not. Things aren't going to be the same.
A month ago, this was the week that AMC was planning on reopening.
Yeah.
Originally, until a month ago, this is when the Christopher Nolan movie Tenet was supposed to come out. They just moved it to August. I want to see it, but where am I going to see it? Is it going to be projected on the side of a building? Cami Egan in the chat, there will be no Marvel or any movie releases this year. In terms of theatrical, you might not be wrong. I think that this next month is going to go a long way in seeing, what's the business model. I mean, look, here's the thing. California, things backed up a little bit, but if you talk to New York, Zia, I know your friend Eric went back into the studios in New York this week. I have a friend who works for The Tonight Show. She's back at work this week.
30 Rock, Jimmy Fallon's back.
Yeah, that's the show she works on.
Yeah.
So there are people going back to work in New York, which is obviously the biggest market, but you have enough other places where it's like, it's just a mess. We have no idea. So I can see it being possible. Michael, what do you think? Do you think we're going to have movie theaters for movies like New Mutants, for Black Widow, or should we all just, watch them on screens this big and watch them on our phone?
I think that if they did put it out in a movie theater, they probably would make a good amount of money because they wouldn't have any competition other than The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, it's true. Most people have seen Empire Strikes Back. In fact, if I want to watch Empire Strikes Back, I can do it right here. In fact, I have two different versions of it.
Guess where I can do it? Disney Plus.
Yeah. And I think they should also release it on demand. I think they should just try to get any money they can to make up for all the money they've wasted on this poor movie, which you and I have been talking about for 4 years, Christian.
Yes. Let me just throw in again from Rock 620. Hamilton's killing it on Disney Plus. That was a big test that has paid off for them. I mean, the Hamilton, that was supposed to be released theatrically, I think, in October. And I do think that, the amount that people are talking about it, obviously it's a property that a lot of people were attached to or excited about anyway. But you could do that with some of these big releases. And just to go back again, Rock just killing it in the chat. Movies need big cities. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the fact New York's not opening their movie theaters yet, but they're having people go into work. So I'm wondering by the fall, will you see that? And who knows what we're going to get here. But I don't know. Back to New Mutants. I think this movie is so cursed. I think they really just want to stop pushing it down the road. And it's PG-13 now. There was always a talk that it could have been an R-rated movie. It's been PG-13 for a while. I think even though it's horror-based, it could be on Disney Plus. But I feel like they also have a stake in Hulu. So, Michael, what do you think is going to happen to the New Mutants movie?
I don't think we're ever going to see it. It's going to be like that Fantastic Four movie. We're going to buy bootlegs of it.
Well, the Roger Corman Fantastic Four movie is arguably the best Fantastic Four movie ever made of the four that they've made. And it's true, I do have it. I bought a VHS of it for $20 at a Comic-Con, and it was money very well. And then give it 2 weeks on demand like they did for the last Pixar movie, then on to Disney Plus. And then let's get back to Kama Egan. Here in Chicago, more and more neighborhoods are doing drive-in shows of films like Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Goonies, Ferris Bueller. Yeah, the drive-in that I talked about that I went to a few months ago, they have Gremlins right now and Goonies too, I think. Yeah, they have a lot of that sort of stuff. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to add, not only are they doing classic films, I've seen 2 movie premieres now in LA that were drive-ins. Yeah, and The Rental, which was the Dave Franco movie that he just directed, and then Palm Springs, which came out on demand on Hulu. So I feel like they could still technically do drive-in movies and everyone will be okay. But, that can be kind of a hassle to actually go and drive to the drive-in, and then you have to find parking, and then it could be a hassle for some people, and you can't put it on it. Yeah,
it couldn't be released on Disney Plus, could it?
I think it could be. You just have to work out the licensing because it was a Fox movie. They own it now, but I think that there's that's still something that they would need. But they've had a lot of time to sit in an office and work it out now. So
they've got X-Men movies on there now. So
yeah, exactly. Although not all of them, but most, there's deals that are expiring.
But they probably wouldn't. I'm sorry. They probably wouldn't make a lot of money. I mean, I don't know what kind of money Hamilton would have expected to make in a theater, but that's nowhere near like a Marvel movie.
No, it wouldn't have made Black Widow money. Absolutely not. And you wonder, would it have? They probably would have done like a limited, big city release and then rolled it out everywhere if it did well. Absolutely. So also happening at Comic-Con at Home, Marvel has some plans for comic book stuff, including the aforementioned Amazing Spider-Man number 850 legacy numbering, the upcoming X-Men event, X of Swords, which I'm sure Chris Claremont is really excited for, this upcoming Avengers and Fantastic Four crossover, Empire, and some Disney Plus plans, including this Marvel 616, which is actually a kind of a documentary about things from the Marvel Universe. They announced that when they originally announced Disney Plus. So I'm excited for that. But one thing that is sort of Marvel adjacent, and one thing that I know Zia is looking forward to even more than New Mutants, Hulu does have at least a panel and a rollout as part of Comic-Con at Home for Hellstrom.
Woo!
It's part of the 1-2 punch of Hellstrom and Ghost Rider, but now we're just going to settle for Hellstrom.
Super bummed that we're not going to get to see a Gabriel Luna Ghost Rider, but anyway, I'm excited. Honestly, it's not necessarily that I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to watch this. I'm just excited to see what it looks like. It's hard to see just from the photos that we got. I mean, really, you're just seeing the characters in still shots walking around. So I can't really tell what it's going to be like from that, but I am just excited to see a different sort of property. And I just love the idea of bringing the supernatural into it with demons and the literal Satan. I like the whole concept. So I'm curious and excited, but I'm not expecting a lot because I don't want to be let down.
Yeah. What do you think about this? The fact that we're getting a Hellstrom series, Michael, is the supernatural something that you're interested in, or you're like, you're gonna wait for me to watch it and tell you how it was, aren't you?
I love when they pull like magic into the MCU. I don't know about like Satan. My big problem with all this new stuff that they're talking about coming out is they're picking the most random stuff. Like, I don't get why they would pick like Moon Knight or like Hellstrom. I don't know. It's just.
Well, I think it's obviously Marvel Studios is saving what they consider to be all the best stuff for the movies. And then sort of like there's the second tier stuff they want to do on Disney Plus. But also, I mean, Hellstrom is a carryover from, before Feige, tightened the reins on everything. Yeah. So, but Rachel, are you up for some supernatural Marvel content on Hulu this October, just in time for Halloween?
So here's the thing. Like you said about Feige, I think that I'm not expecting much from this, but I'm still interested to watch it. I do like Hellstrom as a character from the comics, but I'm not sure what to expect from this show. I am also, and I hate to say this, I think that it can work if you include the supernatural, like with, for example, DC's Lucifer, one of my favorite shows, but that's the other thing is that I don't know how they're going to be doing this. We haven't seen too much, but I might be comparing it to Lucifer. And if that's the case, it will probably be very hard for me to enjoy this the same way that I enjoy Lucifer. So we will see.
Absolutely. So some of the other news that we're getting about.
Well, what about you, Christian?
I mean, I think it'll be fun. I'm just looking for anything new that I don't have to pay for something new. I don't care what HBO Max has coming on. I'm not getting it. I don't care what they have. I don't care about the Snyder Cut. And if it comes around and everybody says it's amazing, that's when I'm going to do my like free week trial so that I can.
They're doing reshoots on the fucking Snyder Cut. You can't do reshoots on this, what's supposed to be his original vision. Then it's not his original vision. Get the fuck out of here.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It's so annoying.
Do a do-over of the movie that they didn't. Yeah, it's like it really is. It's more like the Snyder do-over. It's like
yeah, that's all real weird.
It's a rewrite. I mean, look, George Lucas does it all the time. I mean, thank God we got McClunky added to the original Star Wars. McClunky. So I don't know. Just back to Hellstrom for a moment. Daniel Drew, I bet that Hellstrom was supposed to connect to Ghost Rider in some way. And it was just what someone decided to keep over Ghost Rider. Well, I think Ghost Rider, and of course, Preach Zia from. But I think Ghost Rider. They were like, no, we want Ghost Rider for movies. He's a more recognizable brand. We need to get Nicolas Cage back, obviously.
We were talking a couple weeks ago. We weren't even sure which Ghost Rider they would bring back. Which of the three of them we might see. Yeah. So I want to see more Ghost Rider. I'm very curious to see, when that kind of comes back, what we're gonna get.
Well,
go ahead.
Supposedly, do you know what the movie was called that they said they were gonna do something like Midnight something, and it
Midnight
had
Suns.
Yeah.
So, another story we're about to talk about is Charlie Cox as Daredevil. Easily, Moon Knight, Ghost Rider, Daredevil could all be in the Midnight movie.
Yeah.
I mean, and if they are going to bring Charlie Cox on, I don't see why they wouldn't bring Luna on, too.
Daniel Drew has a perfect solution. Just bring on all the Ghost Riders.
Would not hate that.
I agree. Why not?
Well, let's talk about Charlie Cox. Zia and I spent a lot of time on the Daredevil after show for AfterBuzz TV, and I missed that show very much because I feel like it just kept getting better. And well, no, I guess the second season wasn't better than the first season, but the third season was great, and I really thought there's so much more for them to do. this comes up a lot, this idea, and it's almost like you feel like Charlie Cox has a publicist who gets this story out there all the time. Marvel really doesn't want to recast the role of Daredevil. And then everybody just gets it in their head, and they're like, yeah, I don't want to see anybody else. So, Zia, how hard would it be for you to see somebody else kind of, jump into a movie and be like, I'm Daredevil, and it's, not Charlie Cox?
No, I don't want it. I would understand if the TV show was like mediocre and it was whatever, and they're like, hey, we want to make a great movie version for you. But
you mean like a Ben Affleck one?
Yes. Yes, exactly. Exactly. But no, but Charlie Cox was such a good Daredevil, and it was such a good show. And if you're going to continue Daredevil, it makes sense to have him be Daredevil. People have already seen it for 3 seasons. They love it. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's people out there that don't like Charlie Cox as Daredevil, but I haven't met anyone yet.
Yeah.
What
do you think, Rachel?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've heard everything I'm reading, the rumors are that Kristen Ritter, we might see her return, and Charlie Cox. And so I would love, here's the thing is that time, those shows that, Punisher, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, we need those actors to come back. It wasn't like these were mediocre shows that didn't do well. No, these were really good shows, and we should keep, if they can somehow work it out in the contract and bring these people back. It would make a lot of sense.
When you think about it, people would want to see Kristen Ritter as Jessica Jones. They'd want to see Mike Collier as Luke Cage. They would definitely want to see John Bernthal as the Punisher.
You know where I'm about to go with this, right?
And no one but me wants to see the same Iron Fist. But you know what? Look, if that's the trade-off, that they recast Iron Fist and we get everybody else, I'll be okay with it.
It's all or nothing.
Fine, I'll take that. No, I want that, is what I'm saying. But if that's the price we have to pay, that Finn Jones is not going to be Iron Fist anymore, I will have to handle it. I'll get over it.
He's the only Iron Fist we've ever known.
He is. Well, not if you watch season 2 of Iron Fist. There's multiple Iron Fists in that series. Colleen Wing is the Iron Fist we all deserve. So why not? Yeah, if you don't want to get Finn Jones back, just have Colleen Wing. That's all.
Legacy.
Really. Yeah,
that's exactly. I'm actually totally cool with that.
Cam A. Egan talking about that fight scene between Daredevil and Kingpin in season 3 was fantastic. For the love of God, don't bring back Ben Affleck as Daredevil. Ben Affleck doesn't want to do that.
I didn't hate that movie when it came out, by the way. I was also probably 16. But I didn't hate it when it came out. But comparatively, it's nothing.
It's one of those things you look back on and you're like, oh God.
Elektra was a bad movie.
Elektra was a bad movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Oh no, I'm sorry. I enjoyed the Ben Affleck Daredevil version until I saw what they did on Netflix. And it's like, no, I can't watch this anymore. Yeah. The show just completely, went beyond anything. Yeah.
I think that
we need Patsy.
Yeah.
Oh, we definitely need Patsy. We need the Hellcat movie.
Outfit.
The outfit that she had on for literally 1 second. Yeah, but I don't know. I think it's going to be very tough to recast these characters, and I think that if they do that, they're going to have to introduce them in another movie. But
Marvel has a really bad habit of restarting franchises too quickly, like Spider-Man, Fantastic Four.
But keep in mind that those weren't Marvel Studios decisions. That was Sony that decided to. The fact that we got 3 Spider-Mans in the space of not 5 years, but it was under 10 years. We had, we went from Tobey Maguire to Andrew Garfield pretty quickly. And then, obviously, now Tom Holland. So it just all happened so fast.
Here's my thought though, at least with Tobey Maguire, we got 3 full movies. And by the end of that 3rd movie, most people were like, yeah, this is kind of done.
Because that 3rd movie was so bad.
Yeah, but
I didn't like him, but I loved Mary Jane. She was, Kristen Dunst was great.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I liked the first 2. I know what you mean about Andrew Garfield, and when they brought it back again after that 2nd movie, I felt like they could have done, another one or brought Andrew Garfield into, the mainstream MCU. But
Well, as we start to wind down through the news, I know both of the ladies have places to be. So before we say goodbye, I want to go with one more story. That this one comes from comicbook.com, which is a little bit more reputable than others. It says that Ant-Man 3 is expected to start production in the summer of 2021. So a full year from now, it's supposed to go into production. I think I believe that. I think that the idea that anything was going to be starting soon, like the next Spider-Man movie was supposed to film this summer, I think that they're making some exceptions for stuff that's like almost done, like Falcon and Winter Soldier. You know, Prague was very kind to just be like, yeah, no Americans. Oh, unless you're a Disney affiliated production and want to spend a lot of money, then you can come into our country, just because they want to finish, the stuff that was already started. But it asks the bigger question. I'll ask you first, Rachel. How soon do you think that Marvel will really starting up new productions? Not like WandaVision, which they clearly want to finish, but like this next Ant-Man movie or, anything else that's coming.
I feel like summer 2021 is kind of realistic. If they start that early, I could see I looked over that article too, and there was a lot of uncertainty between Rudd and Chris Evans when they were kind of talking about this. So I feel like with anything else right now, everything is up in the air. But, should the wave and everything going on with the pandemic kind of simmer down a little bit, I could see June of 2021 being the earliest that real major productions, especially like this. Like, it's not like we're hearing, Jimmy Fallon is now going back and he's got his show running again, but with a very limited crew. But when you're talking about filming a movie and the amount of background work that you need and all the people you need to be involved with this and be around each other, I feel like, summer 2021 is probably the earliest we're going to see production on a grand scale like this.
Yeah. What do you think, Zia?
I mean, I have to agree. It's like Rachel said, everything is so up in the air right now. You can make plans, but we have no idea what's going to happen. None at all. They're talking about the first wave's over, but what about the second wave? The first wave is not even over yet. Forget about the second wave. Forget about the third. We've got zero clue what's going to happen. And again, with opening theaters, even if theaters do open and they're at 25% capacity, and I'm not even talking about production, I'm talking about even just releasing stuff. And if it's at 25% capacity, that's not enough to make the money to release the movie. So it's like, all right, cool, the theaters are open, but not that many people can go. Some people are going to say screw it and just want to go, but a lot of other people aren't going to want to put themselves at risk. I don't know,
well,
guys.
I have a theory for that. I think being that so few movies are going to be released in 1 week and 1 weekend and 1 month, they'll probably just have theaters playing the movie all day. Say you've got 5 theaters in 1 movie theater playing this movie so that they can fit everyone in there.
Yeah, that does make sense.
Like in Burbank, we have the the AMC 16. I think that those 16 screens might have 3 movies on them.
Right.
They'll be running all the theaters, but if they're at 25% or even 50% capacity, which, by the way, 25% capacity in movie theaters, if we could just have that forever, after there's a cure and a vaccine and everything, I'd just not go back to packing the movie theaters. That would be great.
Movie theaters would close.
About 25% capacity for Disneyland.
Just all the time.
All the time.
I might actually go.
I went down a rabbit hole because I wanted to see what it's like at Disney World right now, because it's been open for almost a week now.
Yeah.
And you look and you're like, oh, there's no lines, and you can get your picture taken in front of the Millennium Falcon without 1,000 other people behind you trying to take their picture. I'm like, everything's great. I mean, except for, the virus. But other than that, it's great.
My big question.
Yourself, but
what were you going to say, Michael?
My big question is, do you guys think Evangeline Lilly can hold on to her job as Wasp till the summer 2021?
She made an apology, and she said that she wasn't going to live with life in fear and she wasn't going to stay home. There was early pandemic. I think Vanessa Hudgens also weathered the storm. I think depends on what you say and what you do. If there's a video of Evangeline Lilly at a Costco freaking out at someone because she won't put on a mask, that's going to be a problem, you know. But
Coughing on someone.
Oh yeah,
What?
right. Coughing on people at the checkout counter. Yeah. What do you think, Michael?
Well, I've been reading that they're planning to have someone else take over for her. I don't know if it has anything to do with her comments, but I mean, it would make sense with all these characters being replaced with new counterparts.
Yeah. True. Yeah,
Well,
I agree. Plus, with the
yeah.
multiverse and everything that after everything that happened in the last movie, they could get away with replacing her.
Yeah, that's true. It's just like, oh, she looks a little different now. Anyway, I mean, you know, there hasn't been a lot of recasting. Obviously, they recast Rhodey from Terrence Howard, and the only person upset about that is Terrence Howard and Michael.
I mean, I don't. It's not like I think that Don Cheadle's a great actor.
Yeah, he looks so tough.
But I don't like when they recast people.
I don't either. Anyway, Rachel and I will be talking Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That was episode 8 last night, right?
Yeah, episode 8.
That's 5 more.
Oh, no.
On this show, we're all going to talk about it, Michael and Rachel and I, in the very near future, because Michael has a lot of thoughts and we keep running out of time for it. But if you want to see Rachel and I, it's on this same YouTube channel. It's on the Blackcast YouTube channel. We'll still tweet it out, but it'll be at 9 p.m. Pacific. And yes, I know that's midnight Eastern, but you can watch it the next day if you want to. And yes, Michael is pointing out that it's the Blackcast YouTube channel.
Gotta spell it right.
But if people don't tune in for the show tonight, Rachel, where can they find you?
You can find me either on Instagram at Rachel Radner Author, which is all my author stuff, or if you want to find my acting stuff and hosting at Rach Goodman on Twitter.
All right. Well, thank you, Rachel. I'll see you tonight, and everyone here will see you next week. And Zia, where can people keep in touch with you?
Oh, Twitter, Instagram at Zia_land. It's XIA_land, and twitch.tv/ZiaLand. We eat food, drink coffee, play games. It's fun.
I didn't forget. I have to send you mug root beer because I want you to have it on your snack stream.
Yeah, I've never had it.
If you would hang out with me, I would just give you one, but still not happening. But we'll try and make it work.
We're gonna make it work. We're gonna make it work.
I mean, before you move, for God's sake. Anyway, Zia, thank you so much, and we will. And your 30 minutes turned into 40. So again, sorry.
Damn it, Christian.
I will, but we will definitely talk to you soon. And I feel like we're going to have a lot to say. Whatever's on that New Mutants panel, I feel like we're going to have a lot to say about it.
Yeah, we're going to need to talk about that.
All right. I'll talk to you soon. And now it's just the fellas, you know. It's still a party in here, though. Michael, there's a lot of chat to go through.
Okay.
And I want to kind of get some of these comments in here that I thought were really good. And they're useful. Our friend Jacob Downey says, will fighting in Marvel movies involve more hate coughing, which is a very violent act at this point. Daniel Drew's been enjoying HBO Max, but they should have called it something else like WB Watch or Warner Streaming or pretty much anything else. It is super confusing.
Everyone's hating on it.
Yeah, and mostly they hate on the name, you know. And then, you know, I put this up before, but I didn't get to read it. Al Andy says, I'd love to see more Danny Rand. You're my guy, Al Randy. Al Andy. And then Daniel Drew did point out that the Netflix Marvel happened in the other timeline from Endgame, and he fixed it. It's an alternate timeline, but we still want to see all those actors. Jacob Downey, bring back the duck from Affleck to play Daredevil instead of Ben Affleck. I mean, are you suggesting Gilbert Gottfried as Daredevil? Because I would check that out.
Do a Howard the Duck crossover with that.
She-Hulk, Carol Danvers, Patsy, Jessica Jones, and Jessica Drew all need to be best friends. That needs to be MCU canon at some point. I mean, that would be like the ultimate like ladies' night crossover, which they would do that with the X-Men. There's a few like really issues like in the mid 80s. It's maybe 248. I think it might even be the 247. It's right around there. The girls just all go out. And this is when they're living in Australia, so they can just like open like a portal and, you know, go shopping. And I love that stuff. So I would love to see that sort of from the MCU, you know. There's
a really fun series from a few years back that my favorite artist, J. Scott Campbell, did the cover art. And when I have the shirt of it, and when you would see the shirt, it would have Hellcat on it, and it looked like she was naked because the color of her. Her costume. Do you remember the shirt I'm talking about?
I do. Now that you say it, I remember you would wear that.
It's this really cool series, and it was only 4 issues long, and it was actually kind of heavy. Firestar was in it, and they dealt with the fact that her powers of like the radiation had given her breast cancer. It had the Black Cat in it. It had Hellcat in it. It had also Rambeau.
Monica Rambeau, Captain Marvel. But
it's the 4 of them.
She has a few. That's a pretty cool.
I forget the name of it, but it's a 4-issue series.
Sounds like a good
really
series.
cool.
Definitely check that out.
I think they would do well putting a girl movie together. Imagine how much money that would make.
Charles Lee has a great theory that due to the events of this final season of S.H.I.E.L.D., the Netflix shows did happen, but only kind of. They've been altered, so the people exist, not all of the events. Look, when you start doing time travel and tinkering around, you can touch anything. But Daniel points out Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is now in an alternate timeline from the MCU. So that would work. Oh, and Daniel also said just buy a hazmat suit and enjoy Disneyland. Yeah, that would probably be the fun way to go. They should have a hazmat line, basically, I think. Let's see.
They have masks.
Yeah, well, they make you wear masks, exactly. Daniel Drew, I don't mind Finn Jones, but he needs to be directed by a better production team. He was better in season 2. He only had a little time to prepare. You don't need to convince me that Finn Jones is my Iron Fist. This is a great question. Can you imagine if they stream New Mutants at Comic-Con at home? If you tune in to watch it, and then they're just like, hey, let's watch the movie. And so like an hour and 58 minutes later or whatever it is, you've seen it. I'm tuning in anyway. I want to know what they have to say. Daniel Drew wants an A-Force movie. So that was a lot of the stuff in the chat. Now, I promised that I was going to do something in this show that I do on this YouTube channel from time to time. And it is a little bit of a comic book unbagging. I want to finish our time with that because some of these covers are really cool. And then one of them I'm so excited that I have. So this is the Incredible Hulk magazine, but I like these covers where he breaks the logo, which this is not the only one. You know, I like that. These ones might not be too exciting to some people. Marvel Team Up, Spider-Man and Mr. Fantastic. Kind of a class. These all come.
I think that's a really cool cover.
I like this one. It's
it's simple, but it's nice.
Yeah, and I just like both those characters. You know, I get all of these. They do these live claim sales from a comic shop in Burbank called Black Cat, and you get them if you want to pay what they're offering them up for, or you can negotiate. I love this one because Michael, you know how much I love Dazzler. Spider-Man and Dazzler.
Okay, I don't think I have that. I need to check my collection because I have every single Dazzler, and not to be sold. Ooh,
yeah, it's a stamp on it. Not be sold. It means it was a comp to like somebody in the industry, but then they of course sold it. I love Marvel Team Up. All right, so
oh wow,
the next few books are very exciting, and I actually forgot that I got this one because I'm so excited by one of these other books. It's the shirt I'm wearing right now. I have Secret Wars 2 through 12. I've never actually owned number 1. And when they were selling it for $13, I was like, you know what? Yes, I will get Secret Wars number 1 to complete my set. I got this one for a song, Daredevil 181, which is the death of Elektra. I spent $30 on this book, and I feel okay about it because they were offering it for $40. Here's a little post-it. That's me saving some money. But I've got a lot of these Frank Miller Daredevils from that era, like Bullseye, Elektra, and they're so good. The Punisher shows up a few times. So, by the way, Rock missing number 11 of Secret Wars. I can't give you mine. I need it for the whole set now that I have it. Sorry. This one, I love the Tarantula. It's Amazing Spider-Man 147. It kind of completes the set that I have from that era. And what do you think of the tarantula? Are you familiar with him, Michael? Do you see him here?
I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, I recently got a Peter Parker the Spectacular Spider-Man #1, and he's on the cover of it. And he's got there's venom in those boots. I don't mean Venom the symbiote. I mean an actual tarantula venom that I think can kill you if it gets to you. I'm doing really bad camera work here.
I don't think I've ever heard of him.
He's a very 70s character, and he didn't stick around for nearly long enough. So let us know what you think of that one. All right. So this is the one I'm really excited about. I'm going to take it out of the bag because I want to show it off properly. Amazing Spider-Man 238.
Oh.
The first appearance of the Hobgoblin. Now, right here it says free tattoos inside. The tattoos are not included, and the getting a copy with the tattoos included makes it cost like $400. And this is, I've actually read this book digitally, but I've never read it for real. And they were selling it for $100. And I was like, no, that's too much. But I did spend $90 on this because I have literally always wanted this comic. I've always wanted the first appearance of the Hobgoblin. I got the second one within the last 3-4 months. And that's you actually he's barely in this. This is the crazy thing about the first appearance of the Hobgoblin.
They like to do that.
He's on the last page.
Yeah, they like to do that, so you buy the next one.
Yeah. So there he is. But this is the one that's really valuable. So it's a book that I always wanted. And I agree with Rock in the chat. Hobgoblin was always a favorite of mine when I was a kid. When I started reading comics, it was right after the Hobgoblin, but then he came back, and then they pretended it was Ned Leeds, and then they were like, not really. But I love that character. Mark Hamill did the voice of him in the Spider-Man animated series, and I want to get a Hobgoblin in a movie, but of course you always have to do Green Goblin first. And Kame Egan says that the tattoos not included in Amazing 238 is horseshit, but that is a badass cover. But yeah, everybody seems to like the Hobgoblin, and I'll do this from time to time. When I do the videos where I look at where I do the comics unbagging, I did one earlier this week. I did one on Tuesday. I'll go through 20 books, and I don't think that fits to this show, but I saved my good ones for this show, for our Marvel movie talk, which is what this show is now. Michael, thanks for hanging in for the whole show. The ladies were just too busy for us.
I know.
They just didn't have time to hang out and look at comics.
I'll always take more screen time.
Exactly. Well, Michael, if people want to keep in touch with you, where do they do that?
You can find me at I Hate Michael Shirley on Instagram and rarely on Twitter at Michael X Shirley.
I know. I tag you at Michael X Shirley, but I love that it's Michael X Shirley.
Well, they won't let me elongate my name. You can't have I Hate Michael Shirley on Twitter because that's too many characters. Yeah.
Speaking of comics, Daniel Drew says, I need to find that Iron Fist comic that has the first appearance of Sabretooth one day. That Iron Fist comic with the first appearance of Sabretooth, I don't know the number offhand. Written by Chris Claremont, drawn by John Byrne. So that's why Sabretooth became a character that he used so much, because it's a character that's one of his favorites. Rock says, bye, everybody. So clearly the show's over if Rock is leaving the chat. No, thank you, Rock, for hanging in there the whole time. We appreciate it. If you want to keep in touch with me, it's at Christian DMZ on Twitter and Instagram. And yes, this show will live on the Blackcast YouTube page for the rest of the summer. But please join us. If you're watching the archive version, please leave comments, and I will jump in, and we will be back next week. I'll tweet out what time it is, because I think I really want to do this show after the New Mutants panel. I really want to see what they have to say, because Michael, that movie's not coming out in theaters, is it?
I know. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be here next week, so y'all are just going to have to let me know how that went.
Yeah. By the way, Rock looked it up. It's Iron Fist number 14. So thank you for that. And a great show. Daniel Drew, thank you. Kame Egan. And I know there were some other people in the chat. So if I'm not shouting you out now, it's not because I don't like you. The only person on this show I don't like is Zia, but I like the rest of it. It's very fun to get to talk Marvel every week. So I appreciate people following us over here. And we will see you next week. But until then, as the great Stan Lee would say, Excel.